Live.
Whoop, whoop. Hey, thank you so much for having me, Coach Mo. I so appreciate it.
Yes, it's so great to have you here. Steph was in our workshop a year ago, more or less, and came at a time where stress was probably just a little bit too high. And you realized that you needed to do something different. We're going to talk through Steph's journey. And here's the interesting thing. Steph knows a lot more about herself now than she did a year ago, a couple of years ago. And that's part of the discovery of self that we do in our workshop. Because one of the things I learned in my journey, and Steph, you know this, but I'll remind those who might be seeing this for the first time. When I came through my breast cancer, that's when I realized how much more was inside that I was holding back, and it was better. And it was the parts of me that light me up. And I didn't realize how I had stuffed that down. And I didn't realize, even though I was doing like personal development and reading all the books and going to conferences, things like that to live my best life, it was the breast cancer that took me to a depth that I had never gone before. And it was also the time that I was away from work. That was the greatest amount of time that I'd ever been away from work since I was a little girl delivering newspapers. And I know that your journey is similar. And I know that you witnessed other women's journeys as you were going along the way. Let's start from the beginning. So Steph is in her job. She's sort of rocking it and yet stressed out. Where were you when you first saw the first, bring your soul to work from Coach Mo? What was going on for you?
I was literally in my vehicle traveling for work to an event. And I was listening to a podcast, and I think an ad came on, and it was Coach Mo. And I'm thinking, well, who's Coach Mo? I don't know anything about this. And it was asking questions about how would you describe yourself, and almost like that power stance, and what did that look like? Yeah. And the first thing that came to mind for me was Wonder Woman. And as I was listening to this, I actually had to stop and pull over and put my information into your free webinar and listen while I was on the road. Then I jumped back on the road and actually listened to the whole thing for an hour. It was so fantastic. And it was at a time where we as a company had just brought on a new CEO. And within 9 months of that CEO starting, 66 people had resigned in 9 months. So you can imagine when you have an environment that's only about 375 people and 65 people leave in 9 months, that stuff rolls downhill.
Yes.
And when you are an overachiever, when you are somebody that knows how to get it done, they always find the people that know how to get it done regardless.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people. And it just got to the point where I was doing 3 people's jobs. And so when I heard your, ad, it was the perfect time. Thank you, universe, for sharing that.
Exactly. The divine intervention.
Absolutely.
Which I hear so often. And I love to think that way. Because, there is a saying in spiritual development that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And we don't really know that we're ready for something. We just know something is wrong. Correct.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. And when you began to sort of say, you know what, this is wrong. There's got to be a different way. And the webinar. And then, of course, like everyone, the next step is for us to have a conversation. My team and I are conducting career clarity calls because we want to make sure that what's going on is indeed the thing that we can help you with. And it's sort of like going to the doctor to make sure that this doctor can fix what's going on with you. Do you happen to remember that call?
Oh, absolutely. And, I've been spending, many years on personal development. And when you have a call that's live, you never know what you're going to get yourself into. Is it somebody that's going to be like a Coach Mo, that's going to have all the answers? Or is it somebody that's just trying to sell you something? Mm-hmm. And it was such a breath of fresh air because they listened. Mm-hmm. They asked the right questions. They were really trying to vet if my position, my role, my background was even right for the program. Yeah. It wasn't, let's put this out to everybody and see who's going to stick. No, it was legit. Is this going to be right for you and your personal growth? So that was a big eye opener for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I totally appreciate that. And thank you. Of course, there's a lot of skepticism when we do these calls, and I do a handful of them every month because I love talking to women about their careers and what's going on. And sometimes we have a little overflow. So I take the calls, and I do get a lot of skepticism, but we don't offer our workshop to everyone. And sometimes people need something else.
Yes.
And we can't fix everything or do everything. But what was going on with you on the overworking, on the underappreciated, on the hamster wheel, required some inner work in order to fix it. It's not just get a new job, because you'll take that version of Steph with you.
Correct.
And the same thing would occur and happen because that's what we do as humans. We take ourselves with us and we repeat the pattern. Maybe this is something that showed up a few times in your career. Let me just ask you this. It took a little courage to book the call.
Oh, yes.
It took a little courage to show up for the call.
Yes.
And then it took even more courage to say yes and invest in yourself.
Absolutely.
What did you have to sort of like convince yourself of or go through in order to go through those hurdles?
Well, knowing that, like you've gone through the conferences and the personal developments, and you've read the books, and whatever you were doing, something wasn't applying to you. Yeah. And I knew that at that moment, I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
And I was raised as the only female out of 5 kids. So I'm the only female. Yeah. And I was raised not like a boy, but in a guy environment. And my corporate environment has been very male dominated. Yep. So I didn't know what I didn't know, but I realized that I needed to find an environment that's very female based, that understood my language.
Yes.
And also was in a corporate environment that could relate to me as a female. So when I looked at all of that, I just said, what I'm doing right now is not working.
Yeah.
So you might as well do something different.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't a hard decision at all, but at the same time, I knew that I had to be mentally ready for the work. And that was the big thing for me because I was already overworked.
Yes.
Right. I was working weekends. I had an hour commute there and an hour commute home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a teenage son. I'm in a, wonderful relationship with my guy. And I knew where was this going to come in? Right. So I brought the family into this as well. I didn't want to do this on an island. And they shared with me, they knew what I was going through. They saw the job trauma. And they said, you know what, got to do what you got to do for you. We will be here to support you and take care of all the other things that were happening in our life. That's and so it was such an easy yes.
Yeah.
But it was like, you had to be ready for this. And not like it's a hard, you have the program laid out in such a beautiful way that it's do the work, click, do the work, click. But it's not easy work because you have to mentally tap into your soul.
Yes.
So that was what was, I don't want to say held me back, but I just knew I had to be ready for that.
Yeah. There is a commitment of being able to put yourself as a priority.
Yes.
And allowing yourself to believe just long enough that when you do make yourself a priority and you do the work, and you trust some experts who know what they're doing, that you will have the changes that you are wanting.
Correct.
And like you said, if you keep doing what you're always doing, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten.
Absolutely.
And it's time to change the trajectory. Showing up for oneself is a necessary part of success in any coaching program. And as you know, we do what we can to get people on the calls and taken care of. What were some of the beginning highlights for you learning about yourself and really seeing your soul come back to life? What was happening at the beginning part of the workshop with you, Steph?
So for me, I was already on a journey. So I'll be kind of cautious with how much I share, but as I'm going through this toxic environment, I was ill. I ended up finding out that I had Lyme disease, bit by a tick, and I'm that allergic girl. Like I grew up, not running around outside. So it was kind of strange that I had that, but it manifested as severe eczema. And I was that person live on camera for my job. So the heavy makeup, and you can imagine that mental stress that you have to go through to perform, but at the same time, you're trying to, you're crying inside, but you still have to do your job because as women, that's what we're told to do. You suppress your emotions and you just get it done. So I was already on a self-development path, and I had switched from a conventional method because it wasn't working after seeing 20 different doctors, found a holistic practitioner that actually discovered that I had Lyme disease, put me on more of a herbal protocol because the conventional medicine no longer worked because I was in a chronic state. And I say chronic because it seems like that work life and that health part of me was in a chronic state.
Yes.
So because I was already in that mode, I had found a practitioner that they incorporated different therapies that I never knew existed. And one of those was meditation. I mean, I heard about it, but I didn't understand what that all meant. And meditation for me, now I can't get out of bed without at least doing 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that, knowing that that was a part of the program made that comfort level it just felt like I was going home.
Yeah.
And then also tapping was another aspect of the program. And for those of you that are watching that have no clue what tapping is, just put it into YouTube.
Yeah.
It looks like it's strange, but tapping helps to relax your central nervous system. And when we as women are on a high, we're going from the job to home to the kids' extracurricular activities, trying to be that good wife or that good partner. You're always on, and you never realize how much your central nervous system is affecting your entire world. And so tapping helps to relax you and calm you down. So there's so many more different therapies, but when I knew that those two in particular were a part of the program, again, I felt like, okay, I found my people.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is such a deep problem for women. You're not only talking about the emotional load that women typically have, work, family, etc., but the toll that it takes on the nervous system is something we sort of start taking for granted because that's just the way life is. And how many of us have heard sort of the bad cliches, that's why they call it work because it's hard, or that's, I'm not gonna be able to get ahead. I'm always going to be on this hamster wheel, or that's because I'm a woman that this is like, it's just like everything that we're sort of stuck in seems to have this permanent story out there. And we keep buying into it. We'll never know if your Lyme disease would have been as bad in less of a stressed out body. That we could probably consider that it would probably not have been as bad without your body being completely depleted on the nervous system, which depletes our immune system, which is our real physical fighting invaders off. I know for sure my breast cancer journey was in large part due to the level of stress and the negative stories I had been laying on top of myself. Honestly, being upset that I was a woman because I wanted to be successful, and it didn't look like that was as possible as it was so easy for men who weren't as smart as me or weren't as hardworking, and on and on. And we still live in a very sexist global world. I mean, let's just face it, we haven't made all the strides that we want to make. We're making headway.
Right.
So the stress we put on ourselves to always be doing for our families and others, to take on jobs from people who have left our work environment, we just take it on.
Right.
And so the nervous system gets so depleted that oftentimes the body is left almost so vulnerable to diseases and things that could go wrong or do go more wrong. The women who've had strokes, concussions from fall, and I could just keep rattling it off. The body starts to take the toll.
Absolutely. And as women, we are not taught to put us first.
Right.
We are taught that everyone else goes first. And so, I was raised, like I told you, being the only female. And so, men were always, let's get her done. And you don't talk about your emotions, and,
right.
You don't talk about your feelings. And so when, you're in a corporate environment, that pattern continues. And one of the things that I've learned in your program is that you never realize your patterns until somebody actually says it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that job trauma was a pattern.
Yes.
And so when I started your program in fall of 2021, I believe it was, that was brought up.
Yeah.
And so when you have that job trauma and you keep suppressing it, and then finally your body is trying to speak up, it's screaming loud,
right?
Like, help me,
right.
Help you. But we never realize it because we continue to suppress it. So that was such a big eye opener for me,
Yes.
And as women we're listening, we are smart, intelligent, strong, powerful women, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden a word is triggered and you're just like, wow, I didn't even realize that was a pattern.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm going to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about the meditation, the tapping. And as you know, the reason why we incorporate that very early on in the journey for our clients is that if we don't help you neutralize your nervous system response, we'll never get you to that aha area, because the nervous system will still be in this chronic fight and flight mode. And so as we help you enter into your soul and build you up from the inside, that nervous system has to be taken down a couple of notches.
Absolutely.
Even the brain to be able to hear things properly, or even for you to do the self-reflective exercises in the workshop to be going, oh, right. And to even recognize job trauma as a thing to come through, your nervous system has to be at a point where you can go through what's necessary to heal.
Right.
And you did such a brilliant job showing up for yourself and coming through and getting coached and allowing yourself to recognize and, of course, do the work. And we mentioned that earlier. It takes some commitment to come through it. And as you know, Steph, like you're gonna use the time to come through your healing either on your terms or you're going to be forced to. And you sort of did a combination of both, because your body was basically sitting your ass down and saying you need to spend the time healing. Yeah. You eventually left the toxic situation.
Correct.
What did you learn about yourself as you were getting yourself ready to take on a better fitting role at a better fitting company? What did you learn? I
learned that, especially being in an environment, after the pandemic and working from home, that I love working from home. And I love cooperating and collaborating with my teammates, and I love meeting them in person. but I needed that quiet space, because when we were in the office, I never even noticed it. But because I was in the back of the building, a lot of my colleagues would come back and I would play counselor. And because I was that sunny, had that sunny disposition, and everything had to be positive and everything, trying to lift others up.
Yeah.
I realized that by being a counselor for them, it was depleting my energy. And I never knew it because I thought I was just being a good colleague.
Yes.
But then you walk away from that and you realize the space that you need, that energy came back. And no fault to anyone else, because I did not lay down any boundaries at all. So no fault to anyone. But I learned that I needed time for myself, whether it's preparing for a meeting or preparing to travel or whatever it is. I needed that time for myself to be prepared and be, on for whoever needs me next.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, the energy leaks that we women have that we don't even realize, because we just think we're being nice or helpful. And our energy is leaking out all over. You are leaking it out and overworking. You are leaking it out and just trying to be there for your colleagues. And just at some point, there's no more left.
Nothing. Yep.
And if you keep doing it that way, or if you get this new job and you keep doing it that way, so you learn to plug in your energy, take care of yourself, give yourself the time that you needed, protect your energy and your time.
Yes. And set boundaries on top of that. Yeah. And those boundaries were set not only with my family, because now, I'm in a 100% remote role, but those boundaries, that 3:30 central time frame, when everyone's coming home from school and work, I still have to work. And so when my door is closed, that's a boundary. It's not about, Mom, I need to be on. It's like, nope, we have to be self-sufficient at least for another hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
So, setting those boundaries, but also spending a little time outside of work. I was able to take a little time off. And before I jumped back in, and I didn't realize how much nature was so healing. So funny enough that I had Lyme disease,
that is ironic.
But now I want to be in nature so much. And I have friends that tell me, aren't you fearful of getting sick again, or fearful of getting bit again? I'm like, I can't live in that fear world, because if you do, that's what continues to suppress you. That's what continues to wear you out and stress your body. So you have meditation, you have tapping. Life isn't going to be perfect, but that's where that tapping really comes to relax you and calm your nervous system, even when you're going through something that triggers you.
Yes.
But then that nature portion, one of the things that I've learned is that, as women, we want to be available in that corporate environment. Well, I had to block out times throughout the day. So from 12 to 1, this is my lunch hour right now. Everyone knows I will not be messaging. I will not be looking at my phone. I will not be checking emails. I want to go at least do 15 minutes of yoga.
Yeah, nice.
15 minutes of yoga, or I'll go outside and I'll walk barefoot, weather pending, and go walk in nature, because that grounding from the earth, that energy reignites something, at least in me. And there is all these studies about grounding.
Absolutely.
But that energy from nature, sometimes we never step outside. It could be because we're working from home. And so I make it a point to meditate, to tap, to go ground outside, do a little yoga, a little stretching. And those are things that even during my team meeting this week when I was traveling, I shared with the team, those are some boundaries that I had to set. I can't be available for 8 to 10 hours a day all the time, every day, Monday through Friday, and then expect me to be there for you. I have to take care of me as well. And I encourage every person to do that. And it's funny because there was 15 of us and our boss is a male and the rest are all females. So he's kind of been called Charlie's Angels.
Well, and look, as women, I think it's our imperative to set a role model for other women, because every woman's conditioning is the same as what got you in the trap. Every woman learns the same way to be in the world. And it's global. It's not just here in the US, it's a global phenomenon. And women run families and run teams.
Yes.
No offense, guys. We all know it. The woman runs the family. And how different are you now in your family with your son, with your partner? And what have they noticed?
They've noticed that mom's taken back her power.
Mm-hmm.
Mom is happier because I get to go out and garden, and I get to go outdoors and enjoy that vitamin D. I turn it off. I'm not in my office until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
They know when 5 o'clock hits, I'm pretty much out of my office. They know I log in at 8 a.m. I could log in earlier if I need to, but for the most part, there is no set hours, so to speak. It's pretty much get your job done.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that, because even though I've been in a salary role for, nearly 30 years, they, corporate America sometimes treats you as if you're hourly. Like, oh, you want to go, you have a doctor's appointment. Okay, well, you have to do it during your lunch hour. Well, no, they're just like, schedule it any way you want. Just block out your calendar and get your work done. And that is such a freeing thought process. And I know, things have evolved over the years, but they've noticed that there's a lot of freedom.
Yes.
In my thoughts and in how I perceive myself. They don't see me stressed out. They know that I do travel. And so, but they know that I still got their back. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily need mom. I've empowered them to take care of themselves. They have to get up in the morning when I'm traveling, they have to feed themselves, dress themselves, and they're okay with it because they've seen that they can do it without mom, but at the same time, they love mom around.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and they love you around now, all due respect, probably more because of who you've become.
Absolutely.
Stressed out, depleted. I mean, we're not kidding each other, right? To know that when you're a mom who's depleted and stressed out, you're not who you want to be. I just did an interview with my 2 kids. They're stepkids of mine, but over 26 years, we're a family.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically rehashed what it was like when I was a stressed out executive.
Oh my gosh, how enlightening that must have been.
Yeah. And now they're in their 30s, so they can, sort of reflect and speak back about it. I felt like I wasn't able to be who I wanted to be for them, but all I knew was corporate Mo, and when they were out of line, that's who I was.
Yes.
And that's not who we want to be as a mom.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And so sort of living my sins of my past and having, come along this way, and they're both awesome adults in their own right now. We were able to make things right over the last 10 years or so. But how many women are so stressed out that their families are taking the toll? And are we showing kids the right way that life can be? Or are we giving them a bad message that work is horrible, you're going to be stressed out, making money is like a thing that costs your soul, like all of these things that when we're not fully aligned with ourselves, we're really giving our kids a bad message about life.
I appreciate you saying that, because the physical words that are coming out of my mouth now are so different.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm stressed or I'm tired, I'll say, yes, I had a full day, but a lot was accomplished, or the word abundance is used.
Yes.
The word gratitude and gratefulness, the 10-10-10, for those that don't know about this, actually marking down that 10-10-10 and actually thinking through yourself, like, what did I accomplish today? What can I brag about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as simple as that is, even now in the circle that I'm in, there are still women that will say, yes, but And it's like, no, there's no but.
Right.
Like, you are powerful. You are amazing. Okay, you had a little blip. It's the past.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Yes. Yes.
So those moments of clarity and the words that you're physically using or I'm using has changed a lot as well. There is so much gratitude in this house that it's almost overflowing. And
Yeah.
my son's like, okay, Mom, I got enough. I got enough.
Look, it's so much good mileage for later on in life. And how many women I've spoken to who've gone through the workshop who have been kinder to their kids to be who the kid needs to be versus who they want them to be, more loving and present because you're not, depleted and feeling scarcity of time and money and all that sort of thing. If you were to give counsel to yourself 2 years ago with what you know now is possible in life, what you know now is possible for you, what would you say to Steph 2 years ago?
Relax. And whatever that is defined as per person is different, but relax. This isn't the end of the world. If something doesn't go your way, it's just the path that has to go in the moment that you're in. So it's okay to take your foot off the gas. It's okay to just let things play out. You don't have to be in control all the time. And control is not a bad thing.
Right.
But it has to be placed properly so that it benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So that would be my message to myself a couple years ago. Just relax. It'll all get done.
Yeah.
It'll figure itself out.
Right.
And I'm such a checklist person that I still love my checklist. And not for look how much I did today, but look how much I've impacted someone's life. Look how much that we have moved forward in this project that's going to create some type of sustainability in our community, whatever it is.
Right.
It's not about me and my checklist. It's about the impact for others. That is a huge mind shift.
Yes. And you can actually focus on that when your brain is thriving, when your soul is thriving, when you've given yourself the time to conduct your day the way that it needs to be conducted for you. Steph, what would you say to a woman right now who wants to book a clarity call and she's not sure?
Think about all that you've done already. And if you're still in the same space, then get some help. It's okay to ask for help. I grew up in an era where counseling or asking for help meant weakness. And now I realize that by not asking for help and not being vulnerable actually hurt me more.
Yeah. I hired my first coach in the year 2000 when I was hitting my head up against a wall at work and not moving a particular big project I was given responsibility for. Someone said, hey, maybe you should hire a coach. And I didn't even know what a coach really was at that point. It was like 23 years ago.
Yeah.
That coach helped me because she said certain things that were new words to me.
Yes.
And again, having been on a spiritual and personal development path most of my life since college, I was shocked that she was introducing something new and different and to me. I mean, I was sort of like, I got this. And she started saying certain things to me and I was like, oh, like I remember her saying, would you rather be right or would you rather be effective?
Ooh.
And I was like, effective. And that started opening me up to a whole nother sort of different way to be. I've had a different coach and different coaches along the years since then. I wouldn't go without it for me personally. I wouldn't go without having someone who can help me see things I can't see.
Right.
And I think as a coach in particular, it's my responsibility to always be evolving also, because I can't help my clients if I'm sitting here going, oh, I'm good. I don't need to
Right.
learn anything more.
I always say rinse and repeat. You can't do the same thing over and over and be effective. So no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. What's the biggest aha moment you've had in being coached?
There's so many aha moments. But just to choose one, I worked with coaches in the past, and you feel somewhat connected, but you sometimes wonder if they're really listening and they're just saying the same thing to the same people. The coaches here, they reaffirm what you say back to you, to know that they've heard, that you've been heard.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we do this alumni call and there's 30, 50, how many women, and you say, what are you celebrating today? Mm-hmm. As opposed to just going into some type of spiel or presentation, it's about us. Yeah. It's about celebrating us and then reaffirming us. Mm-hmm. And to do that 30 to 50 times on a call once a month, that to me takes someone with a gift, that's willing to just be present and listen. Yeah. And you've got some incredible coaches. Like, I'm not blowing smoke whatsoever or anything to anybody that's watching this. Like, the coaches are incredible. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And we've been working together for a while now. And, it does take a team, because as you know, each one of us have different talents, skills, and dimensions that we bring to the table. And there's a need for all of us along the way. Some people say, oh, I just want to be coached by Mo. And I always say, no, you don't, because you're going to need this and that from someone else. You bet. I am so delighted to have had this time with you, Steph. I really, really am. I remember it like it was yesterday when you were in the workshop and what you were going through, and claiming yourself back was literally like watching a movie of a main character heroine who was deciding every day that she wanted to win for herself. I mean, you really have a great heroine story of how you got yourself out of overwork and depletion. Your body was ravaged by this disease, and you just kept coming forward. Thank you so much. I'm actually, I'm kind of shaking inside as you share that, because it brought me back to that moment of that second or third call that I had, with a coach, as I'm walking through and asking questions. Yeah. I mean, I just remember that time, and it's good to reflect, but it's not good to stay there, because the past is the past and we still need to move forward. But being present and knowing what you have today, and not always worried about the past or thinking of the future, but it's really just being in that present moment. Yeah. And Coach Mo, having this platform today to share my story, and hopefully it touches one person. I mean, I just can't thank you enough. I mean, truly, I appreciate your time and your energy to come on today. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. I love telling stories through wonderful clients like yourself, because this is what we're here for. We're here to help a woman like you who was distressed, didn't have a way out of a situation, and to really lift you into the most beautiful version of you, so that you can do great work in the world and be the woman that you want to be. And what a testament to commitment and being coachable and showing up for yourself. And life just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? Oh, it sure does. And I have to tell you that the team behind the team of coaches that help to pull together the resumes and to help with clarity of who you are as a soul person, and to pull that all into a beautifully designed resume that you can put out in the world, you look at it and you go, wow, that's me. Man, I'd hire me. So true. So that team behind the team is also outstanding. So thank you so much for them. You got it. You got it. What a delight to see you, to spend this time with you. Folks, if you want
a story like Steph's, here's what you got to do. You got to book a clarity call because we got to know what's going on with you. And that's mofall.com/talk. And on that call, we're going to dive into what's going on. We're going to help understand it and get you the clarity. And if we can help you, we're going to advocate like we did with Steph and say, hey, make yourself a priority. Take this opportunity to change your life and to do it differently. And Steph, what a fantastic story and what a fantastic woman you are. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Again, folks, mofall.com/talk is where it all begins. Thanks again, Steph.